This is Michael Clara. Welcome to my blog, Local School Boards Can Make a Difference. The title of this blog entry is Race to the Middle, Part 2, and it has a subtitle up here that the superintendent owes the schools in my community an apology. Today is January 3rd, 2014, and I just sent this letter to the board president asking her to put the issue of the last year's grant just last month. We had submitted a grant proposal for the Race to the Top grant in October of last year, and just received word. I just received word that we did not get the grant, which I'm very disappointed in that. And it appears that the superintendent had no intention of reporting that to the board. And I'm a bit concerned that there's just not any accountability there on how this happened, because I truly believe that the superintendent fumbled the ball on this. And the sad part about this is that it's our kids, the kids in my community especially, that will suffer because of this short-sightedness here. Part one of this blog posting has to do with the September 17th school board meeting. And in that particular meeting last year, just about 4 months ago, I had asked that we look at the Race to the Top grant application from the previous year and make sure that we don't repeat any of the problems that caused us to lose out on obtaining the grant. And if you go to part one of this blog, you can see the video of the meeting where my concerns were just dismissed out and out. So anyways, what I wanted to do is just go through what happened here in December. We had a school board meeting the first week of December last month. And then this is kind of a timeline of what happened with the Race to the Top grant. So it appears that after that school board meeting, the evaluator's technical review form was released on December 9th. Then we, as a school board, we received these weekly memorandums from the superintendent, and he doesn't tell us about this going on or the release of this evaluator's report on December 13th. We're not told about it. And then it looks like when I Googled this earlier today, I found an article. It looks like the first article that I could find came out on December 17th, 2013, and it was a press release by the U.S. Department of Education. And then an article came out in the announcing that Houston Independent School District got the grant, and it shows right here, that in all that five districts will share $120 million in the grant. And then down here it tells us that more than 200 districts applied for the Race to the Top funding, and then the winners were selected from 31 finalists. And so we were not in that. So my first concern is that we're just not notified, that for whatever reason, and it appears to me that happened last year also, in 2012, the board wasn't notified. The school district didn't get the Race to the Top grant. But, coming back to this particular year, here it is in the newspaper. We get another memorandum from the superintendent on December 20th, and again, it's silent as to what happens. Here he tells us that there will be no weekly board memorandum for the following week, so the next one won't be until January, which happened, here just today was the one that we got first. So here's the memorandum that we received today. It's dated January 3rd. However, there's no mention of the Race to the Top grant. This is a school board agenda for our meeting on January 7th that I received today. Nothing was on there. So and then I sent an email today to the superintendent. And note here that I just sent this to the superintendent because this is And I'm asking him and saying, look, I didn't see anything in your memorandum and your weekly memorandums about the Race to the Top grant. I don't see it in the agenda of the next school board meeting. And I says, in our September meeting, you indicated that it would be early December that we would know something. Can you please send me a hard copy of the grant application as well as a technical review form? So what happens is he responds later today. And it's significant to note here that you notice that when he responds, it goes to the entire board, which is fine. That's their normal practice. I realize. So if I ask for information as a board member, everybody gets it. And I kind of went over that process in the part one of this, when board members were claiming that they never received information, even though I received it and was aware of it. They also had to receive it because that's how the bureaucracy here operates, which isn't a bad idea. But you see, what he does is he gives me the link here to the report on the evaluation, and then to the press release that I already received. So I'm just putting this up here just as a reminder that if you go back to part one in the September 17th meeting, Doug Nelson kept protesting that I had documents that only I'm privy to, which was inaccurate. The entire board would have gotten the evaluation that we were discussing in that September 17th meeting. So just by way of reminder, in that September 17th meeting, you'll see that here Mikkel is saying that when I'm asking, so let me back up. In this, if you didn't see part one, the September 17th meeting on the agenda, and this was just a few months ago, was the issue of Race to the Top grant. And so that we were applying for that. They would submit it in October, and we'd get the results in December, which was just a few weeks ago. In this particular one, if you didn't see the YouTube video on it, Mikkel is telling me that the district received feedback a year ago. I don't know how that is relevant to this discussion. And so, what I'm asking is, can we review the 2012 grant? And then right here, if you see here, the applicant has no clear plan. There's no evidence of transparency. District does not provide rationale. So in September, I was concerned about these deficiencies that caused us to lose points and not be awarded the grant. And so all I was asking is, can we review these and make sure that we don't repeat them? But I had to maintain that it's relevant, because if we make the same mistakes, we're not going to get awarded the grant. And so he and I kind of went back and forth on that a couple times, that he's saying that my concern was irrelevant, which I disagree with, and you'll see why. Now let's come back here to just December 9th, looking on the link that he sent me, and I start going through here, and I'm just really appalled at what I'm reading, because, one of my concerns is that these are very simple issues. Now, what you have here is that they have like vision is like 40 points total, and then it's broken down into sections. So you have A1, which in this particular case says articulating a comprehensive and coherent reform vision. You can get a total of 10 points in this section. We received only 7. And then you have here the reviewer comments. And what happens is you have 3 different reviewers, and they all write, for each section. And so then you have a comparative, the numbers that you have there. And this particular evaluator says, and this is the one that we just submitted, says there is a lack of focus with regard to the overall vision. The proposal does not provide persuasive explanation of how the different components fit together to form a coherent vision. This is especially true in the discussion of personalized learning. Now, what's alarming about this is that if you go back and look at part 1 of this blog, you'll see this is almost identical to the same problem we had last year. over a year ago when we were rejected. So, and this was what I wanted to discuss in our September meeting. Here, this is in A2, the applicant's approach to implementation. You can get a total of 10 points. We only received 6. The charts do not include percentages and instead focuses on raw counts of students and educators. It would have been informative to understand the proportion of students included on certain metrics. In addition, there does not appear to be information available with regard to student race or ethnicity or national origin, which would have been helpful to support applicants' claim regarding the growing number of immigrant students with unique educational needs. The data presented also raises questions as to why East High, but not West High, was selected. West High appears to have a larger number of high need and low poverty students than East High, which is odd because we know that through the new grading system here in the state of Utah. And then we have the statistical data here, so I'm not sure why the bureaucracy made that kind of a decision. But even just having this kind of data that's just absent is just bizarre. And this is one of the complaints that I've had throughout the year last year, that we have people coming from the district office giving presentations to the board without any kind of quantified data whatsoever. And it's just, it doesn't make any sense at all that they just make statements without having the data. And here we are trying to use that same kind of mentality in applying for a federal grant. This is B1. It says demonstrating a clear track record of success. You can get a total of 15 points. We scored 6 points. And he says here that, however, the evidence applicant has provided does not support the conclusion that the local education agency has a consistent record of success on a broad scale. This, and that's accurate. But that's the unfortunate thing. And he says here, in addition, the applicant cites the performance of only 2 schools as evidence that its reform efforts beyond early childhood have resulted in improved academic achievement at the local education agency's lowest performing schools. Although the narrative in the applicant's proposal suggests that these schools have experienced significant gains in language arts and math, the data provided as evidence does not uniformly support that conclusion. See, to me, that's just ridiculous. That's just a simple, straightforward, that your narrative is going to match your data. So I'm not understanding how we could fumble like this. The middle school arguably has not seen any marked improvement, and in some cases, performance among certain subgroups has declined in recent years. And I don't know what school that is because I'm still waiting for the superintendent to send me a copy of the application, which I have never seen, and to my knowledge, no one on the board has. B2, increasing transparency in the local education agency's process, practices, and investments. Only 2 points here. And it says that the proposal would be enhanced if the applicant could demonstrate a willingness to be more transparent and to provide data on school-level expenditures as well as information on personnel salaries and benefits costs. And this has been an ongoing issue for me and another board member throughout last year, always trying to get just basic financial information. They tend to hide that from us and keep it from us. And we're on the board, so it seems like we're doing this in the application of a federal grant, which doesn't make any sense to me. Teaching and leading, C2 is this category. We only got half the points that we could have. We scored only half, and the reason is it does not appear that the groundwork that needs to be accomplished prior to receipt of an award was done. It does not seem feasible to conduct many of the tasks described in the proposal to support teaching and leading within the time frame provided and in a way that will facilitate fulfillment of the applicant's goals. Therefore, the applicant's approach may not enable educators to effectively implement personalized learning environments and strategies that meet students' academic needs or to readily adopt content and instruction. Teachers may be provided the tools to frequently measure student progress, but the misalignment of activities in the plan makes it unclear whether teachers will be prepared to use the data in ways that will inform the acceleration of student progress and improvement of teaching. The next section here, local education agencies, policy and infrastructure. We received only scored a 6 out of 15 because many of the activities described in the proposal could have and likely should have been in place prior to the submission of the proposal. Next section, E2, and these aren't in order, but these are just some highlights. So E2 is ongoing communication and engagement. And we only scored 3 out of 5. And it says, at this stage, however, the applicant has not included in the proposal a fully developed plan that offers any real evidence that the applicant has thought through how it will meaningfully engage stakeholders in the improvement process. Instead, the majority of the activities described contemplate convening some set of unnamed stakeholders in order to develop a plan to reach some generalized goal within a certain timeline. And that's exactly how, our district is run, unfortunately. And it's sad that, we have an outsider who doesn't even know us that's pinging us and describing us right on, which is unfortunate because that's what's hurting, the students in our schools. So overall, when I read through this, you see missing data, lack of transparency, low expectations, timeline misalignments, performance measures, high school involvement, stakeholder engagement is lacking, no consistent record of student achievement. These were some of the very issues that were, in this one, no plan to address the needs of diverse student populations. These are the very issues that were in the prior year's application where we lost points. So, this is just a conversation going back to the September 17th where the vice president of the school board, is using 2 hands and 2 fingers to point at me, and I'm sitting right here. And then she says, if you really want to have this discussion, if it is important for you to, and she emphasized the word rehash, something from a year ago, and it's just very belittling in the way that she was, repeating that like I was just some idiot. And then she says it might be better for us to move forward with this grant, rather than us worrying about feedback that has already been delivered. So she's just trying to say we should, in September, that we should just dismiss out and out, my concern that we review, because as far as I knew, and I have confirmed this since then, the board never reviewed the evaluation from the prior year. And Doug, who is apt to always tell us he's been on the board for 10 years, had never even seen the evaluation from the prior year. Even after it was sent to him in June when I requested it, he still hadn't seen it by the September meeting. And so this is a concern for me that there's just no accountability. The prior board didn't, but that's not my concern as much as the fact that I'm here and I owe it to my neighbors and my community as their representative to ensure accountability. And so that's what I was asking for back in September, prior to the time that we submitted the grant application. And you see that they're claiming that last year's had nothing to do with this year's. One of the telling points, and you saw that I was telling you the letters on purpose because each of these are different sections, you see. And then what I noticed is that the only areas the ratings were any higher were in these particular areas here. And E2, I can read you the category that was at. So that yellow again is the areas that we scored higher. Sadly, we actually scored lower overall. In this particular, from 2013, we scored lower overall than we did the prior year. This is the only section. E2 is, called E2 is ongoing communication and engagement. As you can see, we scored higher this year than we did the previous year. And then E3 is called performance measures. we did better here. Although on this one, like this one right here, he says the applicant does not include a detailed discussion on how the measures selected will lead to information that is tailored to its proposal. E4 we scored higher this year. It was called evaluating effectiveness of investment. And one of the evaluators says that that we leave out any real discussion on how applicant will determine whether the technologies utilized are effective. And this is something that me and one of my fellow board members, Rosemary Emery, are always concerned about, wanting to know, and trying to evaluate the effectiveness of our investment in various programs and concepts in our district. The last one here, F2, was called sustainability of project goals. And that's encouraging that we did do better from last year, because last year's was just insane on how we didn't really touch on that. So it looks like we did learn something there, but somehow overall we tended to drop in our scoring. Now, one of the things that in this September 17th meeting that I think is a bit duplicitous on the superintendent's part is, again, I'm saying that it concerns me that if we are going to make the same mistakes, then we won't be awarded the grant again. He said, did you hear though that I explained that that they're grading it differently, so your comparison to last year is irrelevant? And I don't think that's quite accurate, what he said, because these ratings, again, if you recall, they're different categories. They're all the same categories. The categories from 2012 are the same. There's only two minor differences. And the difference is that this category B5 was taken out, and then the score changed. The 5 points that were here got moved here to 15. And so they added, you see, it was 10 here, and this year it's 15 because they got it from this bottom category. So truly the only thing that changed is in categories is that they actually did away with a particular category, which I think in that particular case should have helped us. So I put the two category changes should have made our application easier to complete and be competitive. And then the lowest ratings in the categories are the ones that are more critical to our student success, which is tragic that's what we're dealing with here. And again, when the superintendent claims that the scores changed, that's just not accurate. The grading, the categories stayed the same. Even these numbers stayed the same. So I'm not sure why he kept. Maybe he didn't think that we would look at this, but it was, again, just a bit dishonest on his part. So stakeholder engagement, I think this is pretty significant here. That it's talking about, we scored pretty low on this, and it says, according to the narrative, the decision and rationale for reapplying for this grant was discussed. However, there is no mention of the manner in which feedback was used to revise the proposal. And that is right on. They didn't do it with the board, because if you go back to part one of this blog posting, he certainly didn't do it with the board. The feedback that I was trying to give to help revise this proposal, was non-existent. They say here, no evidence is provided to indicate either direct engagement and support for the proposal from teachers in participating schools, or evidence that at least 70% of the teachers from participating schools support the proposal. It's like, how on earth would you not provide that information if that was a requirement of the grant? And then, we talk about site-based decision making, clearly it's not being practiced here, but it's not being practiced at all. And that's the major complaint that I hear constantly. And then when you try to address it on the bureaucracy level, at the district level, they deny it. But here is clear evidence of it. They have no clue, even when it's a requirement on a grant application, they can't put that information in there. This other one is pretty interesting. Finally, the proposal has been reviewed by the Office of the Governor, the Utah State Office of Education, the mayor of Salt Lake City has reviewed, and support from a number of community partners and other stakeholders. You notice that there's no school board in here because the school board has not even seen the grant application. Clearly, back in that September meeting, they had not seen the evaluators' comments from the prior year. And now you see, here we are, January 3rd, the superintendent had no intention of sharing it with the board. And then here, but I think it's an affront to the school board that the Office of the Governor, USOE, the mayor's office of Salt Lake City, that they've seen the report and have given a letter of support, but the school board has not seen it. And the school board, we didn't vote on it, as far as I know, has not done any letter of support. And I don't know for sure because I have not seen the application yet. These people have, apparently. The proposal includes numerous letters of support from various constituencies, but lacks a high quality plan for ensuring the stakeholders continue to be engaged throughout the contract period. The applicant does not specify clear goals or deliverables that will facilitate ongoing stakeholder engagement and support of the initiatives it is going to implement. And, that here again, that to me should be a simple, we shouldn't have lost this many points for this particular category. That should just be something that we practice. And again, this is an issue that we had last year. So one of the other interesting things that one of the evaluators tell us is that the application stating the decision to have the superintendent be accountable for the continuous improvement process is a sound one that will likely facilitate effective implementation. The sad part is that they wrote this into the grant that he would be accountable, but in reality, he's not accountable at all. And this has gotten to a level now for me that's just intolerable. When we did his evaluation this past fall, and it's a matter of public record, I protested the fact and voted against going into closed session to conduct the evaluation because in his contract it states that he'll give us a 30-day notice that we'll know 30 days in advance that we're going to do an evaluation. And he didn't do that. And so we're caught off guard and we end up with a 4-day notice. And it's difficult to, I'm trying to get stuff together then within that time frame. But then the school board president writes me an email saying prior to this meeting, saying that all I need to do is bring 2 things that Mikkel does good and 2 things that he needs improvement on. And she's telling me in this email that that's the extent of the evaluation. And to me, that's just unheard of. That's just crazy. That we don't hold teachers or now principals to that standard, but he makes, when you look at his salary and compensation, close to $250,000 a year. And this is the kind of evaluation that the board president is telling me we're going to have on him. He's not required to follow the contract that he has with the board. As everyone knows, earlier this year during the budget process, I objected to the fact that he has a 6% increase in his salary, and yet we only gave our employees a 1%. And so during the budget process, I proposed an amendment, and it didn't pass, to give our employees a 6% increase to be commensurate with what the superintendent gets. I think that's only fair. That I believe his accountability and evaluations should be as rigorous as we are required now by law to give to our principals and to our teachers. I don't understand why, even on a legal level from the state level, that's a blind spot, I believe. And I have submitted that to the legislative task force committee or task force on education, asking them that I believe that we need to include evaluations of superintendents, and they need to be as formalized and as intense as the ones that we give teachers and to principals. So this is the end of this particular blog posting. And again, part of the problem that I'm seeing, that I've learned over the last year, is that here we have the board president and the vice president, and they're complicit in allowing the superintendent to not be accountable for inaction. And in this particular case, the children in my community have lost $20 million because, as their representative, and before this grant was submitted, I asked for the school board to review it, and was denied that opportunity. Even in private, the meeting that they claimed we were going to have to do it didn't happen. And I maintain, and I put this in my letter to the board president, I truly believe that had we had that evaluation, we could have had a better application submitted, and we could be the recipients of $20 million for the children in my community. But the public education system here in the Salt Lake City School District is so entangled and introverted within itself. Like I pointed out in the first video podcast, instead of going over the issues that I'm concerned about in the Race to the Top grant, we spent meetings going over policies that were designed to protect the superintendent and to make sure that he doesn't receive any unanticipated questions in school board meetings. And so, as long as we as a school district are going to be more concerned about the feelings of the adults and less concerned about the futures of our children, we're never going to succeed. And that's going to impact our entire community, our city, and our state if we don't get a handle on this and start holding people accountable for what their jobs are and what their positions are and what their responsibilities are. Thank you.